The chair recognizes the honourable member for Kalani.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise today to make my contribution on behalf of Kalani constituency on these two bills, the Electricity Amendment and the Natural Gas Amendment Bill 2024. The Natural Gas Bill seeks to provide for a regulatory framework to govern the importation, regasification, storage, transport, and the retail of natural gas in the Bahamas. The Electricity Bill seeks to repeal and replace the current Electricity Act, to repeal the Electricity Rate Reduction Bond 2019, and while the bill retains the objectives of the Electricity Act 2015, it seeks to modernize and consolidate the law relating to the supply of electricity by providing for certain key changes. The New Day administration has a poor record when it comes to electricity. Their failure to follow through with the hedge the FNM left in place led to some of the highest electricity rates in the country's history. Constituents have called me horrified by the high bills got last summer. The Davis administration's mess up regarding the hedge came at the worst time. Global inflation has been a problem since the pandemic. The cost of electricity in our economy affects the cost of all goods and services. Electricity costs have to be included in just about everything in our economy. And the Davis electricity price increase caused inflation to get worse. It may have been contributed to slower growth in the economy. Prices got even higher across the economy because the PLP spectacularly messed up at Bahamas Light and Power. Bahamians have had to pay more and more and more because of the Davis administration's failure. The PLP is at serious fault for contributing to the hardships our people and businesses are facing. Madam Speaker, most Bahamians accept that BPL cannot continue as is. In the Bahamas, the state has subsidized loss-making public utilities for a decade, and both sides have agreed to this. The hope was that critical utilities for the public could be provided at a reasonable cost, controlled by state-owned entities. That idealistic goal hides a reality that it is not so pleasant to discuss. BPL provides a poor, unreliable service at high cost. The power goes out often. There are surges and damages or destroy equipment and appliances, including my TV and oven that BPL knocked out, and I knew the exact time because I was sitting down watching TV. But still, up to the day, I and many Bahamians have not been reimbursed additional unnecessary costs incurred. This cost, I have every protector. This cost residents and businesses plenty money. But driving around in his $200,000 BMD, the Prime Minister really does not care about, listen to me, the Prime Minister does not care about what's happening to people in their homes and their businesses. With government control of BPL,
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Freetown.
Possible way that anybody can know what the other person cares about. As a matter of fact,
it's my opinion.
you may say something different, but you cannot assert how any member feels about anything or thinks about anything. That's actually deceptive.
Thank you very much. You spoke of a matter of fact. I gave an opinion. With government control of BPL, politics too often goes into its decision-making and management. Minister of Energy and Transport, JoBeth Colby Davis, said during the mid-year budget debate, the BPL needs more than $1 billion to get back on track. That is more than $500 million to clear its debts and responsibilities, and more than $500 million to upgrade the infrastructure. The government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas does not have the money to do all of this right now. BPL has not thrived under state control. A new way forward, I repeat, a new way forward is urgently needed. Madam Speaker, the Bahamas needs to change the model of BPL. I wholeheartedly agree with that. We currently use significant amounts of dirty, heavy fuel for power generation. We should make the transition to natural gas and solar power as our two main sources of energy. And while natural gas is a fossil fuel, it is cleaner than the heavy fuel we use. We should also keep building solar and other renewable sources over time, which would make us increasingly energy independent. The less we spend buying energy imports, the more foreign currency we keep here at home. I supported the government's commitment last year to create 60 megawatts of solar power in New Providence. We heard at the end of January, the government put out a request for proposal for up to 100 megawatts of solar power here in New Providence. Again, I support this. I actually advised the Prime Minister to go for the bigger number of 100 megawatts as opposed to the 60 megawatts he initially spoke about. He should take my advice, you know. When the PLP, you all, when you follow the FNM, when you follow the FNM policies or ideas, you do well. The problem with the PLP is that it is nearing a year since the Prime Minister initially told us of his solar power for our main island. 1 year. No physical work has started yet, a year later. The PLP is well known for promising and presenting pretty proposals of grand projects. They promise big. They deliver very little. They are the show and tell government. However, after 5 years in office, nothing usually gets done under their administration. The Davis administration is no different than the PLP of recent past. The Prime Minister made a big speech some months back on inequality. But inequality seems to be getting worse under this administration. The cost of bread basket items has gone up dramatically thanks to the large part to the VAT on these items. The cost of electricity has skyrocketed because of the Prime Minister. The cost of medication has gone up because of the additional VAT charges. And all the while, as people catching hell, he was figuring out what luxury features he wanted in that BMW. And he has the audacity, in my opinion, to call himself compassionate.
Yes.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, I want to support. Madam Speaker, they are taking away from my time. I want to support broad-based energy reform. I want to support major changes at BPL. However, the PLP's secrecy makes it impossible for me to support these amendments. Up to my present preparation for this debate, the opposition and Bahamian people had no knowledge of the PLP's full plan for changing this sector. Pun intended, we have been kept in the dark by BPL and the PLP. The opposition and the Bahamian people have no knowledge of the PLP's full plan as to how BPL may be transformed. What is the PLP and the Prime Minister hiding? Will workers truly be protected? The opposition and Bahamians have no knowledge of who the PLP's partner might be and in what roles. Is this exercise a way to transfer state assets to cronies? We need to follow the money. Follow the money. BPL's unions are very concerned about what is going on, what is being done. It's hard to trust this party based on their track record of deal-making without proper consultation. I have grave concerns regarding a provision of this legislation. IRCA is to be the regulator of the renewable energy sector, as it is of electricity sector. However, the legislation proposes the introduction of a transition period of 3 years whereby IRCA shall accept tariff rates as notified by public electricity supplies and authorize public electricity supplies. I am quite aware of what the member said this morning, but I still have seen no amendment. For 3 years, BPL and other energy companies will be able to set their own rates. What will they charge Bahamians? Are there windfall profits coming for certain people? Are there major PLP benefactors lining up to make even more money? Is this essentially a license to rip off Bahamian people? Bahamians should be alarmed and deeply concerned. Bahamians should be frightened. We saw sky-high rates last summer. Will they go higher? Individuals in and out of my constituency have presented evidence of their bills increasing by as high as 259% since January. 259% increase between January and April. The Prime Minister clearly doesn't mind putting the hardship of higher rates on the Bahamian people by proposing this through the legislation. I don't talk without facts. I do not support higher and higher PLP electricity rates on Bahamians. This Prime Minister has already added the breadbasket tax on food and medicines. They have increased all kinds of fees, and IB is supposed to go up and up and up and up for 20 years. Now the PLP wants to give a free hand for high energy bills for 3 years. Is this the case so that the companies they give the deals to can make all their profits right away on the backs of Bahamian people and businesses. We are being asked to consider this legislation without all the facts. This is almost like someone telling you to buy a new house that you have never seen. Again, what is the PLP hiding from us, the Bahamian people? Madam Speaker, the public is afraid that there will be some big deal to benefit PLPs. The hot part ain't come yet. The hot part coming soon, so sit down. Sit down. Sit down. The hot part ain't reached yet. I see that clock. I see that clock. I'm still ahead of schedule. The public is afraid that there will be some big deal to benefit PLPs, with the administration taking so long to fully disclose what is happening at BPL. As members of the PLP elite, our members of the PLP elite benefit from the changes at BPL. Will companies with PLP shareholders get control of various parts of BPL operations? Questions. Will individuals close to the Prime Minister benefit from the PLP's proposed changes to BPL? These are questions. Questions that were not answered in the run-up to the debate on these bills. I want to vote for reform of our energy sector. But this doesn't seem like a reform. This seems like a big payday or a big lottery win for certain people. I cannot support legislation where all the details are not explained before debate on this and any other related legislation. I cannot in good conscience. I love to sleep freely. Freely. My conscience must be clear. Once my conscience is clear, I am comfortable. I cannot in good conscience support this legislation that may help to make already rich and entitled PLPs get even richer, turning these oligarchs into even fatter cats. The PLP cannot be trusted on this matter. Brave Davis and the PLP cannot be trusted. The PLP seems to have already made a deal on BPL while keeping us in the dark. Now, the hot part coming. So I tell the press, no, I still got 14 minutes. I got time. I watching that clock. I tell the press, listen, the hot part coming in 15 seconds. Now, they seem to be coming to the house for us to rubber stamp a secret deal. This may turn out to be a very sad day in Bahamian history. Now, let's shift to the second gear. Move that car in second. I was in first. Now, gearing up to second. Madam Speaker, it is very sad that the government of the Bahamas has brought an 81-page bill to this honorable House and seeks to rush it through by an abbreviated debate less than a week after it was laid. Madam Speaker, even the unions, the management unions, BPL, have not gone over this bill. They received it the same time as us. And they have written the Prime Minister since March of this year, asking for clarification. He has not responded yet. So they are in the dark just like us. That made me wonder what was really going on. So I looked at the bill very, very carefully. And what I found out, Madam Speaker, is scary. It is scary. If this electricity bill passes today, it will be the biggest hoax that was ever perpetrated on the Bahamian people. No entity in our nation's history would have ever done as much damage to our country as this PLP government would have done with this piece of paper. Madam Speaker, the Electricity Act of 2015. Listen, the Electricity Act, I asked the press to listen. The Electricity Act of 2015 contained a provision that BEC could form joint venture companies, but those companies had to be wholly owned by the Bahamian people. Angliston is a nationalist. She understands this. Bahamianization, she understands this. In this bill, BPL is being given the authority to form joint venture companies that cannot be wholly owned by the Bahamian people. That's right. The PLP is saying that those companies can only be partly owned by Bahamian people. Jesus, I might give my citizenship. You read the bill and you asking me the section, I can tell you at the end. We will find out today, I can tell you at the end. We will find out today if anyone on that side has courage to stand up for the Bahamian people. This is your opportunity to stand up and show that you truly love the Bahamian people. And to add insult to injury, BPL will be allowed, listen, and at the end I'll tell you where to find it, because you haven't read your bill. Add to insult to injury, BPL will be allowed to transfer their assets to these companies. So, the equipment and the land that the Bahamian people now own will be transferred to private companies that will be incorporated for the sole purpose of making profits. This is troubling, and there are huge problems. The problems, let's look at the problems. The bill does not say that the Bahamian government will own a minimum share of the private company. Problems. Read the bill. Just how you spoke, I knew you didn't read the bill. You didn't read. It's your bill. At the end. Anyhow, I can't leave me off. Running out of time. It does not say that the Bahamian government will own a minimum share of the private companies. So it is possible, listen to me now, it is possible that BPL can transfer hundreds of millions of dollars of its property and land, and the Bahamian government could possibly end up owning as little as 1%. You did not read. There are no safeguards in the bills to protect the patrimony of Bahamian people. Other problem. The bill only permits BPL to transfer its assets to private companies. It does not permit the transfer of liabilities. That's like giving your car to someone else free of charge and still having to pay the bank loan for it. So, BPL is going to be stripped of its assets, but the Bahamian people will be left to pay the bill that BPL owes. Madam Speaker, you can withdraw this if you choose, but that is criminal. That is criminal. You can withdraw, I would withdraw that. There is another problem. There is no protection for the employees of BPL. I hear you this morning. No provision to protect their employment. So they will stay with a company that has no assets, only bills, and the Bahamian people will be forced to pay higher taxes and higher electricity bills. Another problem. There is no provision to say that the private owners will only be minority owners. They could end up only 99% of BPL. An example of what we are facing is that under this bill. Madam Speaker, I want to repeat. An example of what we're facing is that under this bill, we're facing BPL could transfer their Clifton and Blue Hills generating plant to one of these private companies without getting 1 cent in return. Then the private company would use our plants and equipment to generate electricity, which they would sell back to BPL at a profit, because they will be in business to make a profit. So the people will lose again because they will be paying more money for electricity that their own equipment was used to produce. Imagine now, imagine. Speaking to the people. Speaking to people. I ain't speaking to y'all because y'all didn't read the bill. Speak to the people. Imagine giving your house to a friend free of charge, and then they charge you a rent to live in it while you are still paying the bank. Other problem. The act does not require the private company to pay 1 cent to the Bahamian people. I know that the government will say that they will negotiate a good deal. But you have to ask yourself, why don't you put it in the act to protect the Bahamian people? Then again, there are no procurement guidelines at all. In fact, I hear that the new owners have already been lined up, so the government will be able to legally strip BPL of all its assets without a public process for determining who the owners will be. This is where backdoor deals occur. And for you, then, Madam Speaker, there is no provision for Bahamian citizens to be guaranteed a right to buy a minimum amount of shares in these private companies. Then another problem. To top it off, once the private for-profit companies get assets of BPL, they will have several years where they can raise the rates that Bahamians have to pay for electricity without justifying the rate increase to ERCA. Then again, there are no safeguards in the bill for the Bahamian people. None. Madam Speaker, there is more. But I have made my point. And anyone who votes for this bill in this form will be betraying the Bahamian people. I will not betray the Bahamian people.
Again.
I therefore give notice that when the bill goes into committee, I will be moving the following amendments to Section 9. Amendment to Section 9 of the bill. A. Section 9, subsection 3C3 of the bill is amended by insertion of the word liabilities immediately after the word functions. B. By the insertion, read the bill, man. I spent all, listen, man, Madam Speaker, I will ask my colleague, who is a legal mind, when he speaks, I'll ask him to go into the amendments. So as to give you, and I would hope, Madam Speaker, would let the House join for 15 minutes so you can go and read the bill. Jesus.
She recognizes the honorable member for Freetown.
Madam Speaker, I noticed Kalani say procurement isn't in the bill. He may want to reread page 54.
Because obviously he was sleeping.
But legitimately, we wish to hear what they have to say in a debate. Yes. If they wish to notify us that they would wish some amendments, yes. As leader of government business in the House, I'm just trying to get his view correctly.
You mean Kalani and read the bill?
Yes, no. No, Madam Speaker. No.
He didn't comprehend.
No, Madam Speaker, I cannot say that because I am not he. But we legitimately and earnestly would like to hear what the proposals are, so we can consider them, so we can, if they appear to have any merit, send them to legal draftsmen. Because we approach this seriously as a debate over serious pieces of legislation.
Anyhow, Madam Speaker, I am a reasonable and compassionate man. And therefore, I am not a lawyer, I am a doctor. But I spent, you only give me a few days. But, you know, my wife said to me, Jesus Christ, you don't have any time for me. You log down and not in junk. I said, no, I have to read it. I have to read it. So, Madam Speaker, in all fairness to them, I will leave the amendment to my colleague from Long Island, and he will speak about it. So, Madam Speaker, may God help us. Guidance, and may God give us, I should say, guidance and help. And I thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member.